Hello, everyone. I think we are live. We are live on everything. Hello, hello, hello. We will be getting started at 8 p.m. I just want to make sure that I was on time. Yep, and it shows me live. Live, live, live. Good, 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 good. Okay, we're on there. Thank you guys for sharing. I see it already. Thank you. Good, 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 good. Thank you guys for sharing. I'll turn that volume down so I can put this in here. And then we can be on here. We can see who joins us and all of that good stuff. So we're going to give it a few minutes. Make sure you go ahead and grab your pens and grab your paper so you can be prepared to take notes. We're going to dive right on in and get into the nitty gritty details, as my mother would say, the nitty gritty. We're going to get right on in. I'm going to turn that down just a little bit more. All right. I hope everyone had an amazing week. Hey there. Had an amazing week. It is so awesome to have you all and have the opportunity to present to you this information. I've had a lot of people ask about it. And so I wanted to go back and revamp the program for a couple of reasons. Um, but we wanted to revamp it and make it conducive to more people being able to enjoy the information and grab a hold to it, improve your future. So we wanted to do that. We are going to give it just a couple of more seconds here. I want to get started right at 8 o'clock and we will move on, get through it, and be done with it for today. I want to give you an opportunity to join us for further education opportunities as it relates to real estate investing. So this is my jam. This is what I love. I've been doing investing side for 13 years and just enjoy it so much. So just a few more seconds here and we will get started. Grab your pens, get you some coffee or whatever you might need this evening, this beautiful Thursday evening. as it is. All right, it is 8 o'clock now. We're going to wait till 8:01 and I will start. This is so awesome. I'm glad you all were able to join this evening. Thursdays are like my cool down days. So those are the days that are so much easier for me to do these types of live events and to help with the education and all that good stuff. So I like these. All right. I see a couple people on TikTok. All right, it is 8:01 on the nose, and we are going to get started. Hey there. So I have like all the social platforms going here. So you'll see me looking a couple different directions because I have them all going at the same time. I think we're streaming on 6 different platforms right now. So thank you all for joining from whichever platform you are on. I am going to go through, we will have a question and answer session. So if at that time you want to ask any questions, please feel free to type them in your individual chats. And I should be able to see everything. If not, you can always go to Kimberly Ladoris on Instagram and send me a DM, and I will be more than happy to answer your questions there. Okay, so we are going to share our screen here. And this evening, we are talking about your first real estate investment property. So the 7 key steps to success in obtaining your first real estate investment property. We're first going to discuss defining your goals. Then we'll discuss choosing a niche, which is one of my favorite ones, as a matter of fact. We'll talk about your market research that will need to be done, financing options, your property analysis. We'll talk about making offers, and then we'll close and talk about closing and managing your properties. So there's a couple of different things that go into having this particular goal. It's a big one. So again, as we stated, our first one will be defining our goal. So in exploring your real estate, in defining your goals, you're going to want to touch on the importance of clarity. So here we want to stress the importance of having a clear goal. You identify your investment objectives, whether it's income, capital appreciation, or diversification. So it can be any of those things. And it's going to be imperative. This is probably your most important step, is to make sure that you identify your investment goals. The stress of not having a goal and then going into real estate can pretty much take you out of the game. Are you looking for monthly income? Are you interested in long-term appreciation of property? Are you looking to have or build a portfolio that you're able to cash in years down the road? So you have to define what your goal is. I would say do short-term and long-term goals. That would allow you to be able to capitalize on a couple of different ways for obtaining your investment property. The next one is to choose a niche. So this is probably my favorite part of the process. The niches are extensive, and we'll talk about it a little bit more, but in the class, we give about 100 to 150 different niches in the real estate industry. There's probably even more than that. I'll be honest with you, we got inundated with the different ones, digging through, finding what is out there that you can invest in. Now, of course, there are your popular ones that everyone hears about, which is your residential properties. That's your homes, apartments, multifamily units, which you can do for income or you can do them for resale. We also have, and I'm just going to name a few. You have your townhomes, your vacant rentals, your luxury real estate market, your senior living facilities. You have student housing. You have rental spaces, which are like your strip malls, your shopping centers, your storefronts, buildings, warehouse, industrial properties. You have your mixed use developments, which is going to be like your stores on the bottom level, and then there's living quarters up top. So you have medical facilities, hotels, and motels. You have agricultural land. You have timberland, which that's becoming a lot more popular nowadays. Marinas, which is where people park their boats. The services that you give to those that need to house their boats, those are rented out to those boat owners. They do not own those places where their boats are parked. If you go to Miami, that's one place that I enjoy going, but there's huge boat docks in Miami, and there's an individual that owns the dock, and he rents out those spaces to those boat owners. Self-storage units, that's another very popular one in the South. Mobile home and parking lots. Believe it or not, you can own parking lots and rent them out. So for a company that I used to work for, we owned parking spaces in a big football stadium. So people would rent those out, and when I tell you they rent $11,000, I'm not joking. So you can rent parking spaces, and that is a big, big, big income generator. So you have retail REITs, residential REITs, healthcare REITs, office REITs, mortgage REITs. There's tons when it comes to your real estate investment trust, which is what REITs stand for. And then a lot of the newer niches that are coming now that a lot of people are getting into are like co-living spaces. So that's where you have a house where maybe has 3 floors on it. In the South, it's becoming more popular now. Up north, it's been popular for years. You have co-working spaces, and that's where you're able to have an office space, but you share it with multiple companies or business owners. And then another new one is pop-up retail. And that's where you rent out retail space that you're maybe showcasing a boutique or doing a makeup artist session. So you would do a pop-up retail location. That's where you're just setting up for that day or that week or that month or however you want to set it up and what your terms and guidelines that you and the owner determine. When it comes to choosing your niche, you want to make sure that you identify the pros and the cons for whatever niche you decide to go into. So discussing those advantages and the disadvantages of that particular niche that you decide to go to. What are your potential risks? What are your rewards? So make sure you identify what those are and you have it in mind as it relates to what your goal, which was in step 1, what your goal was and what you plan to do for your investment business. Next, we want different strategies for financing of our real estate. With doing this, we're going to want to do some market research. So the local dynamics of where you are investing, it is imperative. And in my opinion, this is probably the most important step next to the goals. So your goals is going to kind of direct you. Your market research is going to tell you where you should go for sure. Doing your market research, that's where you're going to identify What are the big areas that are up and coming? Where are the investments taking place? What are the pricing in that market, in that particular area? We can be in the same state, in the same city, on two different sides of the city and have two different markets. So this side, buyers are dominating. Over here, sellers could be dominating. So that is not uncommon when it comes to the market. Now, there's usually a general rule, just like in the stock market, there's a general, this particular stock is generally increasing, but in that increase, there's decreases that come along. So you want to make sure that you are aware of what that particular market holds, how it, or what the demands are, and then how the supply looks for that particular area. That is very, very important to make sure you understand what the future growth potential is of that neighborhood or that area that you're looking at. Another caveat that I'll enter here, if you're looking in the commercial industry side, you're going to want to make sure that you have the return on investment, all the data as far as the rentals, what the traffic is like for that area. You don't want to necessarily get in an area that, well, depending on what type of business you're in, rephrase, depending on what type of business you're in, you might want to be in an area where there's not as much traffic. But mostly, if you're looking for retail space, you're going to want to be viewed by traffic, and that comes with the cost. So there is a cost that's usually calculated into those numbers when you're looking at investing in commercial property. There is tons of different tools and resources that are out there that allows you to get that market analysis information. You can use different real estate websites, local governments, and then you can also get with real estate agents that would allow or help you get that information as well. So you want to take a look at those too. So when it comes to your strategies for your financing of real estate, that's going to be a very deep subject. So we're going to touch it, highlight it on there, just to give you the touch points. So you have your traditional mortgages, you have hard money loans, you have private lenders, you have real estate partnerships, government programs, and then there is a plethora of more options out there. So there can be tons of different avenues that you use for financing your real estate. I am a true advocate that you do not have to do everything. You do not have to do everything in your name personally. You can put some stuff into your business. You can do things that give you partnerships with the homeowners. So there's tons that you can do that does not require you to have the capital out of pocket. So make sure when you're looking into the financing portion, you stretch your options. Don't get boxed into the typical what you see everyday financing. In our course, we're going to dig into over 150 different strategic ways of financing real estate properties. There are tons. Now, some of these do require you to do work, but there's tons of them out there. So for traditional mortgages, that's just what it is. It is a traditional mortgage. You secure the loan as the collateral. There's tons of different terms, lengths. That means you can do a 10-year, 15, 20, 30, and even 40-year mortgages. And then your rates will vary. That can be based off of your credit, your business credit, depending on how you are financing those. It can go a couple different ways. On the hard money loans. Now, hard money loans, I don't necessarily suggest doing those. But if you have to do a hard money loan, make sure that it's a short-term loan. Usually hard money loans are short-term. They're higher interest rates. They come from private lenders. And they usually offer a quick transaction. So it's usually where they can close fairly quickly and get you the funds that you are looking for. Private lenders, kind of the same as a hard money loan. That's usually what private lenders offer, are hard money loans. And that's not always the case. I've been blessed to have different options on those. They're usually individuals or groups that are offering more flexible terms than your traditional mortgage or your traditional banking system. So sometimes when you see that the loan is offering a different rate, or that the lender, excuse me, is offering a different rate, or there's a higher interest rate, if you don't know it's a hard money loan, there's nothing wrong with asking. I have seen hard money lenders that come across as your regular lenders. So you want to make sure that you do find out the information before you move into that loan. And don't be embarrassed to ask questions. Remember, all of these parties are working for you, and you are empowered to be informed when it comes to what type of loan you get for your investment property. Especially if this is your first investment property, you've never purchased a home or anything before, allow them, and maybe let them know ahead of time, hey, can I get the documents so that I'm able to read over them, so that I can make sure I'm understanding exactly what I'm getting into as it relates to this loan. There are always, and I say this again, there are always fees that are added into the loan that may not be discussed at the beginning. And they may be discussed in a way that's saying that there's a initiation fee or a recording fee. There's so many fees that go into it. So just make sure you know exactly what you're getting into. As it relates to real estate partnerships, those are pulling the resources that come into your with the partners and all to finance projects. And this is usually your larger projects that they are talking about when it goes into talking about real estate partnerships. So you're pulling your resources with to finance the larger projects or diversify the risk. And sometimes the diversification of the risk is what is the most important part. So remember, investing, real estate investing is a risk in itself. So you don't want to carry it all on yourself, especially if you're doing a partnership. You want to make sure that the negotiations go where both parties are winning as it relates to the negotiations. So that's a whole nother topic, and it can go real deep. Government programs. So programs like FHA loans and VA loans, these offer advantages for certain buyers. The VA, of course, so those are for veterans. And there's different programs that they get 100% financing. And a lot of VA loans are not taken advantage of. So if you have a partner or someone that's eligible for the VA loans, make sure you see and use that as a resource that you can take advantage of that one as well. All right, here's the good stuff. So an analysis of your properties for investing. This is huge. So location analysis, of course, we've all heard the status: location, location, location. And it is so true. Accessing the property's location for demand, accessibility, and future development potential. So where would you get information for future development potential? So do you just look at the lot and like, oh, this has potential for future development? How do you know that? Where does that information come from? You're going to want to know that when you're looking at some properties. Not all properties are you going to look at for that, but for some properties you definitely want to look at, is it close to an interstate? Is there an exit close to that property off the interstate. That is huge. If you've lived any amount of time in your life, you know that exits are a big place for development. How close are you to the exit? What access is around you? Are there public utilities there? Can you get electric, gas, water? Is there a well? Is there a septic tank? There's so many things that will give you information as it relates to the location analysis of the property. So you want to make sure that you do that and do that thoroughly when you look at it. These are your critical evaluations that need to be done. Property condition. Now, in my business, we always had an inspection done. So I'm an inspection nut. Yes, get one, even if the property is raggedy, torn down, run over. There's things that you're not going to see that the inspector will see. So get an inspection done, irregardless, even if it's sold as is, still have an inspection done on the property. I don't let any, and I say any of my clients purchase without an inspection being done. Even if we're paying for the inspection, you still want the inspection to be done. So evaluating the physical condition, the age, and the required renovations of the property. Again, these are some things that an inspector is going to be able to point out to you and let you know, maybe, hey, this heat and air, which is up here in this attic, is trash. It works, but it's trash. You're going to have to replace this probably within the next 5 to 6 months. That's good information to know. That is definitely good information to know. So your return on investment. This is probably the second biggest thing that you're going to want to make sure that you have those numbers. We don't want to go in with emotions. The company I worked for never saw the property. A lot of them never did he ever see them. All he wanted was the numbers. If the numbers worked based off of our information from our general contractor for the inspections, our general contractors for the repairs, our home inspector or our commercial inspector for the inspection, what are my numbers? And sometimes that's all that is important to them, is to know what their numbers are. So calculating the expected returns, including rental income potential and the appreciation. Now, depending on how far you plan to take this investment business and how far you're looking to go with this individual property, those numbers, appreciation, the rental potential, those are going to vary based off of what your needs are. So it's not so much that you're going to have everything that you need in that particular property, as far as the type of property, but it can add to your portfolio if you're looking at building onto it. Your market valuation, that's comparing your property's price with the market trends and other similar properties within the area. There you just want to dig more into what a market analysis is for that particular property and how to perform that. That can go into a little detail. We do go into it in the class, and sometimes that's a good place for clients to start as far as digging into their properties go. Then our last thing on our analysis is your legal and compliance check, ensuring the property meets legal standards and zoning regulations. That's important because depending on the age of the property, you can have some things that were done to the property that were not done to code. You can have some things that are done to the property that were not permitted. There wasn't an inspection performed, and the current owner could be responsible for those things before that property is transferred to you. If there's anything that's done like that, you want to be aware of it if you're going to take on that ownership of that property. All right, next we are down to ready to make our offer. So a strategic approach to property acquisitions. So our offer strategy, we want to develop that. We're developing a well-informed offer strategy based on our market research and our property evaluation. So the offer strategy is something that you're going to want to come together with your agent, or you can come together with that with your attorney, depending on, or unless you're able to do them yourselves. I do offer strategies myself in conjunction with an attorney to our side. So that would be one area that you're really going to want to focus on and be strategic. That's why you have a strategy. You want to be strategic in your offer, and don't be afraid to kind of reach out of the box. Your negotiation skills. So you want to employing effective negotiation techniques to arrive at a favorable agreement. The one thing I would say about that is that you want it to be a win-win for both parties. So that's the number one rule in negotiating in real estate, is try to make it a win-win for both parties. While I don't want to be the one to be the bearer of bad news to a seller when I'm trying to purchase a property, I also don't want to be the one to have to take on sellers' mistakes, legal issues, things of that nature. So run all that through when you're negotiating your offer. A contingency plan. So that's incorporating contingencies for financing, inspections, and appraisals in the offer. And that also survey. So depending on what you're getting, what you're purchasing, what you're looking at, a survey may be needed to make sure that you are in compliance with what was presented to you for sale and what you are receiving. There's a plethora of reasons why you would want to add a survey to it. Take it from me, from experience, you want to have a survey done. Contingencies for financing, that simply means that I don't have my financing solid just yet, but I do want to purchase this property if I can get it financed. I do want to purchase this property if the inspections go in my way. I want these inspections to be done, and if everything checks out on the inspection report, then I will be in agreement to move forward, or however you want to word that for your situation. There's so many ways that these can be worded. An appraisal is a no-brainer for me. I don't want to pay more for any property, especially as an investor, unless there is a kickback to me on the other end. I won't go into that deep side of it because that can go real deep. And if this is your first property, there should be no reason why you're going that route anyway. Just make sure you get an appraisal and that is in your contract for contingency. So legal documentation, ensuring that all offer documents are legally sound and that they protect your interests. So there's tons of software out here now and everything. We talk about it in the class about building our teams. You want to have your contract go through an attorney. If you have a good attorney, they are worth their money in gold. So you want to make sure that they have your best interest at heart when it comes to your contract. You can have them draft a contract for you to use on a regular basis if you're going to be making lots of offers. So definitely get with an attorney for that. Closing timeline, setting a realistic timeline for closing the deal, considering financing, and your due diligence period. Your closing the deal, you just want to go through the closing process. So that's all the paperwork that you're going to have, your closing costs, your typical timelines, and those can vary. If it's residential, your typical timeline is 30 to 45 days. Sometimes it's quicker than that. Sometimes it may be a little longer than that. So again, it's going to be dependent upon your particular situation, but realistic timeline for closing the deal. If you have a seller that is pushing that, they want a 7-day quick close, all cash, blase, blase, blue. Unless they are coming off that price big time, be leery of that. Even if they are coming off the price big time, be leery of that and still get an inspection. So I don't care if they tell you they have to close in 2 days. If your inspector can't get out there, that is not your deal. Move on. There's too many other properties out here to sit and concentrate on one that you're not getting the due diligence time for. That is very important. Okay, let's move on to our step number 7, which is our last one. We're almost done, guys. So on the closing and managing the property, that's a big one. Oh, here it goes. That's a big one as far as your closing. This is executing all the necessary steps to close the deal, including your final inspections and your paperwork. So when you go to the closing table, this is once you've done all the inspections, you're okay, everything passed, you're good, you renegotiated with the seller to get your prices reduced, blase, blase, blue. You're going to want to close the deal. So that's when you go into the attorney's office, depending on what state you're in. You might go to a title company, or you might go to an attorney's office. They may come to your home. It can be a plethora of ways depending on your state that you live in. For me, we go to an attorney's office, and or I do all my closings by mail. I don't attend closings anymore, but once you work up to that area, you don't have to attend the closing. So they can execute all the necessary documents to close the deal, including your final inspections and your paperwork. Then you have to decide on property management. So if your goal, if we go back to step 1, you remember on step 1, we're defining our goals. So if your goal is to have it as rental property, then you're going to want to decide whether you're going to be self-managing the property or you're going to hire a property management company. That's a whole nother ball game, okay? When it comes to self-managing and or property management, hiring a management company. If it's your first property, I would always say hire a property management company. Make sure the terms are something that you're okay with working with. It does not have to necessarily be for the entire year. Most companies will do a year. When I was a property manager, we did a year. So our agreement was at least a year. And we had lots of newbie investors that would come through just to kind of see what the process is. And then I'm also an advocate of self-managing. Sometimes it could be a headache. If you're close to the property, then great. I have properties now that I self-manage, and sometimes they can be a headache. You have to find tenants. You have to screen your tenants. You have to make sure they're taking care of your property. You need to do ride-bys. You need to do drive-bys. You need to contact an inspection company. Make sure they're inspecting it every 6 months, at least 3 to 6 months. So it can be overwhelming sometimes, but it can also save you that 10%. So in my instance, with rents as high as they are right now, $200, do I want to pay a property manager $210 to manage my company each month for every 30 days when my tenant is probably calling me twice or 3 times a year? Is that worth my drive to where I have to go to the property? Or is it worth me having someone else to go there for me? So again, the goals are going to be totally different depending on what your decision is going to be totally different depending on what your goal is with that property, if property management is something that you're going to need. So ongoing investment review. I used to have to, when I worked for this company, we did reviews every 3 months. And that may sound like a lot, but when you're managing 600 and 700 properties, That does not. And we had individual funds. So different groups of properties were within different funds. So you might have 3 different apartment complexes, 260 units in apartment complex, an 80 unit complex, 7 unit complex. You might have 4 to 5 of those in a fund. So we would review those funds every 3 months in a meeting. It's not a drastic review or anything like that, but you do review them to see how they are performing. So you're regularly reviewing the property's performance and making adjustments as needed. What type of adjustments you might add? Do I still need a property manager for these properties? How often am I getting phone calls on this particular 262 unit that we just built from the ground up? Not really having too many issues with that one. So do we need a property management company? Can we bring this back in-house? So we have different things that you want to review as it relates to the property management, as it relates to your ongoing investment reviews. Tax considerations. This is a big one, and I'm not going to talk much on there because I am not a tax accountant, and we would advise you to speak with your tax accountant because every situation, it could be the same property, the same income and all, but a different person, and you have 2 different responses. So understanding and planning for tax implications related to property ownership and rental income. Make sure you talk to your tax consultant, whomever that might be. Make sure you are benefiting greatly from that. I actually had a attorney that set up all of our businesses for us, and he referred me to a tax accountant that would be able to redo everything for us and set us up to where they were winning and not spending as much money out of our pockets. All right, exit strategy. This is a big one. Make sure that you have an exit strategy for every single property. When we used to work, we had to have our entrance and our exit. Our entrance is, how are we going to get into this property? What creative financing way are we going to get into this property? Most of ours were creative financing because most of your banks are going to max you out at 4 properties as an individual. When you get into a business, some of that can change. We did new constructions, we did apartment complexes, we did individual residential homes, and we did commercial office space. So we had a mix of properties. So whenever I presented a property, I always had our entrance and our exit strategy in place for them to see. Again, it wasn't them looking at property, so they didn't really care what was on the property or what the property looked like. They wanted the numbers. So planning for the future sale or transfer of the property, aligning that with your investment goals. So it's huge as it relates to which direction you're going to take that property and how you're going to move that forward. So there's a few overcoming common challenges. This is not any of the steps. Those are our 7 steps to getting you into your first investment property. And it's a big step. It's big steps. There's a lot that goes into those 7 steps, but they are accomplishable. So overcoming common challenges, you have investment pitfalls, which I have had tons of. Okay. It's identifying strategies to avoid common pitfalls in real estate investment. And that's some of them where you overanalyze the property. You analyze it till the property's been sold to someone else. I've analyzed this property so much, by the time I'm ready to purchase it, someone else done bought it and closed. It could be stuff like that. Or common pitfalls is not getting enough insurance. Some companies, most of your mortgage companies, but when you look at creative financing, it's not always mortgage companies that are financing it. So they're not all looking at those. So securing the finance, which I just mentioned, tactics for successfully navigating the competitive market to secure financing for your real estate ventures. There are so many. And I told you there's a whole chapter in the course that we teach on strategic, creative financing. I have over 150 examples that I actually give you in the class for different ways that you can finance a property, depending on what some of your goals are. And we did 150 of them. So there's a whole lot. If you were on the class a little earlier tonight, I read you almost 2 pages of different niches that you can go into. And with each niche, there's other creative financing ways for every single niche to get into a property. Don't think of you having to have the money in your account to do it. If there's a yes to be had, there's a yes to go get. So you have to be strategic about it, but it has to align with everything that you're about. So definitely don't shoot yourself to that no when there probably is a yes. And then market resilience, that goes back into securing the finance and finding that yes. So you want to build a resilient approach to withstand market fluctuations and economic changes. So daily things change with us. So there can always be something that's going on, something that is different. So you want to keep the resilience of the market at the forefront of your mind. And know that, okay, I see prices are beginning to come down now. Sellers are not getting as much money. So we had a 28% decrease across the board in all sellers where they reduced their prices on their homes by, 7.3%. And what is that 7.3% of? That's of the purchase price, their original purchase price. They dropped it 7.3%. So it always used to get me like, what does those numbers mean? So I like to explain what that means when you hear those things. But you want to keep all those things at the forefront of your mind because those play a pivotal role in moving forward in your next phase of investing. A few other things, the technology in real estate. So technology now has gone bonkers. There are so many platforms that help us as real estate investors to leverage information, or data is what we call it. So it allows us to leverage data, tools and apps that give you listing essential tools, applications for market analysis. There are tools for property management. Believe me, if you want to self-manage, you can self-manage and do it efficiently by yourself. We have online platforms, which is just really modernizing the real estate transaction and broadening your marketing reach. So it allows you to reach more people by going online. I'm not going to say I was a pushback of online, but I've been in real estate for 27 years and it has been loopity loop for me with the technology. And I love technology. I really do. It's just there's so many things that get thrown at you and trying to sift through it all to find out what exactly you really need. So that's why I like this particular presentation tonight, because I laid it out for you. And those are honestly, if you were to take those things that I gave you this evening and line them out, you can be in your first property. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Then tech integration. So that's discussing the integration of technology and real estate to streamline the processes and improve efficiency, which it definitely does. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. It allows you to be more efficient in your processes. So by all means, incorporate any technology. So now we come down to our Q&A session. So I have a couple of different platforms going here. So if you have a question, you can type it in. If you're on Facebook, if you're on TikTok, Instagram, just type it in, or YouTube, you can type it in and we can get your question there. All right, I got one here. How do we go about finding what tools and apps to use? So your tools and apps, let's go back to that slide. Tools and apps which give you listing essential. You can do a Google search. So depending on what you're looking for your tool and app for, there's so many of them out there. So if you're looking for a market analysis, there's RPR, there's Zillow. I don't really recommend Zillow so much. It has gotten a little better, but it's not the best. You can also reach out to a real estate agent or a realtor and make sure they are investor savvy realtors, because there is a difference. And they usually offer their services to give you the research that you need as well for that. So again, depending on what you're needing, if it's property management software, you can do a Google search. You can look for free property management software or anything along those lines. You can find it on Google. So all those are there. Any other questions? I don't see any. I did want to thank you so much for coming to our Investor Power Launch today. This is how you can continue your real estate journey with me. As most of you all know, we are starting our course on the 18th of this month. It is $97. It is a 4-week course that I am teaching live. And then you will have a portal that you can go in, and there are lessons and sessions in there for you as well that gives you more information detailed. You will have homework assignments, but my goal is to get you comfortable to investing in real estate. And this program teaches you exactly what we have to do. So I gave you the steps here today. This is no charge for you there. The Investor Power Launch course, if you see down here, it is $97, a 4-week course that I teach live. We do have a group, a Facebook group, which currently has the other students that went through the last one. We have revamped this course to include things that they stated we should have included in there. So I've incorporated everything in there. I have a workbook for you. There's tons. So you can go to the KimberlyLaDoris.com/IPL, which is Investor Power Launch, and join there. I want to thank you all so much for joining tonight, and we will hopefully see you all on the course on the 18th. I think I'll be doing a few more lives between now and then, just pop-up lives, just to come on and give you all more information, more details that will hopefully push you in your current real estate investing career. So thank you so much. God bless you all, and you have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Bye, guys.